Welcome everyone, this is Al Dacman Barry, and you're watching Dac Dynasty. So, today's episode is going to be a top 10. Why a top 10? Well, it's cold as you know what. And I don't want to start the bus right now. Pretty much simple as that. I'm also in the middle of a million things. Some of you know that I'm looking for a truck to help with the move with the house. And that truck is a Ranchero. And hopefully by next week we'll have it, and that may be the premiere for Raw Car, that series. Let's get on with the top 10. Now, one of the reasons why we're not starting it or not driving it is right here. So basically what happened, driving around, rusty belts snapped, so the gas tank dropped. So that's going to be a problem. For whatever reason, initially I didn't want to start it. Then I changed my mind, and the batteries are at 0. So we're gonna go with the top 10, although my top 1 I needed battery power. Pisses me off. Number 10. So number 10, the wheels. So as you can see, these are 2-piece split rim wheels. Now, this piece is the main rim, and this is the locking ring. So you got 2 pieces. You got the inner rim that goes inside, and then you have the locking ring. There's a groove inside there where the ring locks in place with the tire pushing up against it to keep it snug. Now, there's supposed to be a gap on that front wheel. It's actually very close, and that's a little troubling. We'll have to deal with that. And that's something you don't see on modern vehicles anymore. The last of these wheels were used in, I think, the 70s, although Africa still uses them today, and possibly South America. This is the way she was built from the factory, so I'm going to have to work with them very carefully, because the ring can snap out and decapitate you. I am not exaggerating. Literally, people have died when working on these things and not respecting them. Number 9. Next thing are the doors. Normally, American buses have the door at the front. You come in, pay the driver. I think it's the same in Germany, and usually people get off in the middle door, which you have here. Now, this one has a third, right there. And this is because of communism. Really. Public transport was more or less the only way to get around. And stops were pretty much at every building or every clump of apartment buildings where lots of people would get on board. And they'd want to get on board fast. So you have 3 big doors, let people in and out as quickly as possible, which turns out didn't go so well even with the 3 doors. People still like to squeeze and shove themselves and whatnot, and yeah, wasn't pleasant. Been through it. I'd still rather take the car or drive the bus myself. Number 8. I'd love to blame communism for it, but this is more of a cutting cost feature. Now, my bus has these padded seats. Hard as a rock, but nonetheless. But the standard bus came with this. Now, it's kind of mismatched. You got one plank there and one plank there. Slightly curved, their excuse for ergonomics. And that's what you sat on. Not that uncomfortable actually, but they were cheap, they were durable, and I gotta respect that, gotta say it. Also related are the foam seats that were the option. However, I got some of them that were redone. One of them around here at least. And this is what they put in. It's quite literally hay. I get a kick out of that anyways.
Number 7.
Number 7 is this. The cabin is closed off. And you lock it. Just in case those raging, starving people want to get at you because they think you got something. Now normally there should be a stairwell here. This was modified. And this is the driver's separate door. But this was the way many buses were set up. Initially in '77 when this model came out, they had an open cabin just like buses in the West. But eventually drivers wanted to be separate so they can drive in underwear or something. Anyways, so this was the factory. I think it may have been the last factory. No, not. Wow, that's loud. Okay. This is the last factory built one with the hinge door, because newer models like the 95, 96s, 97s had a sliding door in the same place here. Cool that this thing has a little hole where you would pay the driver. Here's my money, take my ticket. No. Here's my money, give me my ticket. And one of the original markings for the fire extinguisher, Instinctor.
Number 6.
Next up is the stick shift. Now, normally you'd think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd be wrong. So, first gear is all the way over to the right, all the way over to the point where you're pushing buttons. Then you're back to number 2. And 3, which it doesn't want to go. There we go. 3. And then all the way back to 4, which is like way over there. And reverse is like all the way over to the right and all the way, which I'm not going to mess around with because my battery is somehow dying. Little plate showing the shift pattern.
Number 5.
So you got the hub. It's got my initials on it. Hardy Har Har. And it's large. In fact, it's massive because inside of this thing are reduction gears. Most of the reduction occurs in the hub versus the differential. So this was used in many military vehicles because it gives better ground clearance.
Number 4.
The engine compartment, which it's not in the front, not in the back. It's right here in the middle. It's a flat 6 with the heads pointing that way, so that's the front of the bus. And the heads go that way. So horizontal 6, which makes lubricating this a pain in the butt. So you got to be careful that your oil pump is functioning properly. So yeah, it should have been running, but because of cold, the batteries are totally drained.
Number 3.
Just gotta apologize. I wanted her to start, but the batteries are, as you can see, dead as a doornail. Something must have drained them. Next up, I had the ignition, which you would think this is it, but it ain't. You can start the bus. It'll be funny if it starts now. No. But the ignition is actually just here. You press the starter and that's it. This, the key, controls your lights and the ability to turn them on. So you can turn them on and, well, you're supposed to be able to pull the key out, which makes me think this is not the original ignition. You're supposed to turn the ignition on, leave the interior lights on for the passengers, lock the bus up, go to lunch, and nobody can muck around with it. At least that's what the manual says. So you have a start and a stop, which in my case doesn't work. I gotta pop it into fourth and stall out the engine. Obviously this is gonna have to come off and be redone. These are like Icarus door buttons they're not correct.
Number 2.
I was gonna have this as number 1, but since you can't see it, there's no point, and I'm just gonna fly through it. Turn signals are not auto-canceling. You turn the wheel, and you gotta remember that you had your turn signals on, and the wipers the same. Not only that, but you turn off the wipers, and they can stop in the middle of your damn windshield, as some of you that have been following me have seen in some of the videos when I was driving.
Number 1.
Right there is a hydraulic fluid container. It even says liquide de freno, which means brake fluid. So why the hell does a vehicle with air brakes need brake fluid? It's a good question. Because this is a system called air over brakes. So in reality, the brakes are hydraulic. So instead of a brake booster running on vacuum, it's running on compressed air. And the brakes are straight air. It's just the fronts. They stopped using this around 1945 after World War II. And the reason why they had it this way was in case the enemy shot your brake lines. Obviously with the straight air, your brake lines are shot, brakes engaged, the S-cam engages from the brake spring, you're gone, you're done, you're not moving that vehicle. With hydraulic, with just air pushing down on the brakes, you still can move the vehicle, you're just going to have to stand up on the brake to stop. So you can still get out of enemy fire. That was the reason. Why does a city bus built in 1993 still have air over brakes? Ask the engineers. Why does it only have it on the front is an even bigger question, because if you lose your brakes, you're not moving. So what's the point? You might as well make them all air brakes. So that is the number 1 oddity of this bus. So Monday, I may do the first episode of Raw Car where we're going to pick up our project. And that's going to be, well, some of you may know already, but others, well, you'll have a surprise. I hope you enjoyed this top 10. It was a little difficult because the bus didn't want to start. Obviously you saw there was a battery issue. However, it's not related. The batteries, I think they're still charged. It's just that they're not making good contact, so I'm going to have to check on that. In the meanwhile, why don't you see that little red button there that says subscribe? Okay, push on that, and then there's a little bell next to it. Push on that too. Just do it. Alright? Just get it over with and start following my channel. Also, watch some of the older ones if you haven't. And even if you have, watch them again. This is Al Dacman Barry, hoping you have a great ride. Because it gives better... I can't say this. Is the engine oh dear God. Oh, for the love of God, that's tough. The last split ring. Say that 10 times fast. I don't know why that makes me think of Instigator.